Newcastle United were 4 minutes away from their third consecutive victory last night against Spurs in the Premier League until Christian Romero popped up for his second goal in a late overhead bicycle kick with his shin that was poorly conceded, which squirmed through 3 centre-backs and a goalkeeper to get Spurs a point and halt their losing run of 4 consecutive defeats. And that means Newcastle United have now lost 11 points from winning positions this season, the most in the Premier League, and it meant we dropped from 7th to 13th in the process. So in today's video, I'm going to give my reaction to yesterday's 2-2 draw at St James's Park, and also the reasons why we're conceding so many late goals. Is it a tactical reason? Is it formation? Is it a mentality problem? Is it concentration? Or is it a mix of everything? So let's get into it. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Magnificent Mags channel. It's Wednesday. I hope you're all well. Before I begin, to help the channel out, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you want more videos once I upload them to your account, then please turn on that little notification bell. So what word would I use to describe last night's result? Frustrating. Look, I'm not angry, because if you want to look at it from a glass half full perspective, that's now 7 points from the last 3 games out of 9. And if you'd offered me that after our recent results at West Ham and the likes of Brighton and Brentford, I would have snapped your hands off. And if you'd asked where we would have got those points from, I probably would have said a point against City, maybe a win at Everton, and beating Spurs. So yeah, it's come in the most unlikely scenario, and that we've beat Manchester City for the first time since 2019. Won our first game convincingly at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and then that point last night. And look, you've got to look at the context of this as well. Spurs are much better away from home than they are at home. I've been watching some of the opposition channels before this, and Spurs fans aren't happy with Thomas Frank. They feel he's too conservative. I mean, that's football though, isn't it? You can't win. Andrew's too open, but Thomas Frank's too conservative. But I understand when you're away from home, you get more points playing that way, because we've done that so well since Eddie Howe came in. But Spurs, when you're doing that at home, obviously the fans want you to attack. Even though we said last night, these clubs who say playing the Spurs way or the West Ham way, like, I just don't get that. You're not, like, if you're playing the West Ham way at the minute, well, it's not doing them any good, is it? But you thought, look, we've got a good record against Spurs. If you exclude Steve Bruce's final game for us after the takeover, we've beaten them in every game up here since then. And you just thought, look, they're low on confidence. Most of them want the manager out. They haven't won a home game since the opening day against Burnley, 3-0. So there was a lot to capitalise on last night. And they came here and they were very poor. And you just thought Newcastle United need to build on that now and get the 3rd consecutive win. And if we can do that, we can then push on once we've got Burnley this Saturday. And that could be 4 wins from 4. And then that would have our back up at least in the Europa League places, because obviously there's some fixtures tonight. And we could be ahead of Sunderland before the derby. And look, you mightn't like to hear this, but Sunderland are playing well. I've got to give them credit for that. No goggles here. They're having a fantastic season, and they go to Anfield tonight. And for once, I'll be cheering on Liverpool. But I've got to acknowledge, we're North East rivals are doing better than us at the moment, but obviously we can still be above them if results go our way, because they've got Liverpool tonight and Man City at the Etihad, both away at the weekend. But yes, about us, yeah, it is frustrating, because when you lead so late, do I think we deserve to win that game? No, I don't, to be honest. We brought our own problems, that's why we conceded the late goals to them. But when you're leading that late on, should you be winning? Yes. And look, I don't want to just like label 1 or 2 players saying it was their error. It was a collective, as Bruno said after the match. And I agree with him. I said I want to explore why we're possibly conceding so many late goals in games. Like I said, we're joint top of points lost from winning positions this season with Brentford. That's 11 points. And a worrying stat is points recovered from losing positions. We've got 0. But I do agree with Bruno. When he said it post-match last night, he could have frustrated figure. He was very passionate. He said, we'll have to defend these games better, especially when you're 1-0, 1-1 and then 2-1 in the 86th minute. So he's deeply frustrated, and here's a mentality problem. I do feel there's a mental fragility there, but it's also a concentration issue. And yeah, I do believe it's a mixture of all things. I don't think it's one thing. It never is. Football's so complex. But to concede so late on, it's wrong substitutions, I believe, from Eddie Howe. I'm going to go into this, but I understand, look, that Fabian Schär came on because they moved Christian Romero up front, and he's a bit like a chaos merchant, and he needed to put an extra centre-back in there. But I still feel that Schär was the wrong option. Look, Joe Linton didn't have a good game, and it was sad to see Miley come off, but obviously Howe and his coaching team will have all the statistics. There might be reasons behind that, but I just feel it was the wrong substitutions. Going 5 at the back basically gives Spurs confidence, because if we're pushed on, team low on confidence, went into their half, not giving them any space, continuing to go for a third, I don't think they would have had an answer or got anything. But when you're bringing on another centre-back, you're basically saying, we're going to try and defend this, and it might have worked 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, in the early days of Howe, but it's not been working this season, and that's proved by the 11 points drop from winning positions. And Spurs will see another centre-back come on, a midfielder go off. That means we're seeding territory. That gives them confidence that they can go and get something, and then the inevitable happen in the end. So yeah, I do think it's a mix of wrong tactics, going to 5 at the back, wrong substitutes coming on in Fabian Schär when it should have really been, in my eyes, Jacob Ramsey. Like I said, going back to it, they have the stats. I don't know what Ramsey's doing wrong to not get any game time, because Joe Linton had a shocker along with Jacob Murphy. But yeah, it's tactics were wrong, substitutes were wrong. It's a mentality issue, and we're not concentrating, because since Marky Mark came in, what is it, from Midtjylland, the Danish club, he was renowned for his set pieces with them, winning them titles and that. But while we've improved in an offensive sense, where we're doing so well with them, we're now becoming very poor defensively, and we're not able to defend them, because that's now goals conceded from corners against Arsenal, Manchester City and Spurs so late on. And that is a massive frustration, because if you want to be an elite team and do anything worthwhile in the league, you need to be seeing games out. Elite teams, and I think we can become one eventually, obviously it takes time. I just think you need to be seeing these games out. You shouldn't be conceding late on it. And look, yes, I said Spurs have been better away from home this season than they have at home, but they have got a mental fragility about them too. In our recent home record against them, manager under pressure, low on confidence, we should be doing better. And last night, it simply wasn't good enough to concede so late on. But look, like I said, it's not an angry response, because at 7 points from 9, and if we beat Burnley, that's 10 from 12. That's still a fantastic return. That would mean we're taking this 3-game unbeaten run at the moment into a 4-game unbeaten run ahead of Leverkusen next week, and then the derby, which is looming large, the Weertime derby next Sunday. But going through the game, look, there was 2 changes from the team that won at Everton. Jacob Murphy came in for Anthony Elanga. I felt that was harsh. Look, when I seen the team sheet before Everton, I said in my other video that I was shocked to see Tonali not there, but I was actually pleased that Eddie Howe was using his depth and trusting other players. But yeah, when I seen Jacob Murphy back in for Anthony Elanga, I felt that was really harsh on Elanga, because like I said in my video in Morpeth on Sunday, that he's a player who's instinctive and he runs on confidence, and he put in a good performance. Yeah, it wasn't world class, but he put in a very good performance at Everton. So I feel he was desperately unlucky to be dropped. And then I was shocked to see Bruno not in there from the start. And I thought, I expected rotation, but I expected it more on Saturday against Burnley. I thought Tonali would come in for the ineffective Joe Linton and then keep Miley and Bruno in there. And like I said, I feel Tonali, I've said this in my final word review of the match. If you go on my socials, you'll see it on those. I feel that Tonali's more of a single pivot who links defence and midfield and attack. He's not someone, he's definitely more defensive minded than Bruno, because when Bruno came on, he really lifted the team and the crowd. But yeah, I was shocked to see Bruno drop, to be honest. I thought one of him or Tonali would be rotated on Saturday against a weaker team in Burnley, certainly on paper and league position. But yeah, Eddie Howe made those changes. We started well. It wasn't a poor performance from us yesterday. I feel we're on the right track to becoming what we want to be this season. I do feel we're putting in some very good performances of late. We're certainly improving. It's not like West Ham, Brighton or Brentford. Like Marseille, like I said, it was encouraging. It was just an individual moment of madness. But Yeah, I feel like we're starting to get in the right place, and we're just missing that little touch of having Yohan Wissa there. I felt Harvey Barnes was really giving Pedro Porro problems running down the wing. He was really driving in him, put him on the back foot. He looked really up for it. Lewis Hall, technically class. He would have been my man of the match, but I've given it to Bruno if it wasn't for allowing Mohamed Kudus in for their first equaliser for the low cross. But Lewis Hall is still a class act. The fact that like he's exquisite with the ball at his feet, the agility, the movement of him to get out of tight areas and wriggle free when he had one or two men on him at times. He is fantastic. And I felt him and Barnes really linked up well on that left-hand side last night. And that's where most of the threats came from. And Tino Livramento on the other side, he was just as effective as Lewis Hall. They're both great athletes. Fantastic touches, offer so much offensively on the overlap and playing in that 10, like I said on Sunday, which they did at Everton. But he wasn't as effective on the right-hand side overall as Hall because he was let down by Jacob Murphy. But we did start well. We did start with intent. Obviously, we had a couple of chances. Lewis Miley, first of all, he had his shot that was straight at Vicario. He was unfortunate, but it felt like it was a bit of a tame effort. And then there was another good chance when Jacob Murphy played a good pass through, a nice slide rule pass with his left foot through to Joe Linton. And then Joe Linton was unlucky. I think that was his best moment in the game, to be honest, when it crashed off Vicario's post. But yeah, we're on top, more possession, more chances, I feel. That's certainly what we were discussing in the crowd. Just couldn't get that breakthrough there. And I felt there was too many players still off it in the first half that contributed to we're not taking the lead. Dan Burn was good in the air, but he gave a lot of sloppy passes away, unforced errors. He was poor in possession. He's not good on the ball, let's be honest. And then, like I said, Jacob Murphy, he was ineffective on the right-hand side. His concentration was poor. He lacked final execution when it came to his crossing, and he doesn't track back as well. So Murphy really let Tino Livramento down. And then Joe Linton hasn't had a good season, let's be honest. He put his body about a bit, being a bit physical, creating space for others to come into, and like playing the passes to try and get what going. But all in all, he was poor. He was pretty anonymous other than doing that. And some of his passes were dreadful. I think it was from both kickoffs. He passed it straight to Spurs players, unforced errors. Yeah, and even Sandro Tonali, he's normally such a solid player for us, at the heart of everything, always an 8 out of 10. But even he last night, he was ineffective. So in his set pieces, he was poor in his corners. And sometimes our corners baffled us. Sometimes we're doing in-swingers, causing problems. But then we switched to out-swingers, which caused Spurs no problems, then got them on transition. So yeah, there was some poor decision-making last night. But yeah, we got to half-time. We probably deserved to be on top. We had more territory, more possession, but it was 0-0, chance to regroup. And I just thought, look, Tonali took a knock. It looks like he might be out if he's got a knee injury, but I felt Bruno needed to come on anyway. If Tonali didn't have a knock or not, it could have been for Joe Linton, but obviously Tonali came off for Bruno. Bruno was brilliant, my man of the match. He immediately lifted everyone. With his technical quality, yeah, he's not as good defensively as Tonali, but he's so much better on the ball, gives you control in midfield, and obviously his passion, his drive, he lifts the crowd just with his energy. Yeah, so I felt that was the right substitution. And Jacob Ramsey, like I said, they might have stats which we don't, why he's not playing, but I felt that Jacob Ramsey could have came on for Joe Linton, but he didn't. And then a couple of chances came and went. Harvey Barnes drove at Porro, and then Vicario saved, and Voltemada's chance was cleared off the line by Danso. And then we had the other opportunity as well, where Tino Livramento shot, and it was blocked. I don't know who by. It wasn't the keeper, but obviously Tino Livramento had that other chance. And then you thought, will the breakthrough come? But then eventually it did. It was a great move. Anthony Gordon came on. I must say, it looked like he had a point to prove. He had the bit between his teeth, and he caused Porro even more problems than Barnes. Drive and run, used his acceleration, and then he got past his man, and then he pulled it back. Voltemada was there under a little pressure, I must say. It was very good for his awareness, but he laid it back, and then there was Bruno. And Bruno, lovely, lovely finish from him, just to wrap his foot around it, get in the bottom corner, out of the reach of Vicario. But then we didn't learn our lesson. We sit back when we're 1-0 up, And then their equaliser had an air of inevitability about it because Lewis Hall, who had a good game, he didn't close down Mohamed Kudus enough. He put in a low cross and Dan Burn switched off. He swung out the leg, which could have resulted in a pen. And then it was a lovely, I've got to say, a lovely header from Romero into the bottom corner. And then you thought, right, what will happen here? But the crowd, I immediately started singing. The crowd got behind the players, tried to lift them. And then we went and got a second. Bruno, who was much better on corners than Tonali had been, put in a great cross. Now, I'll say I felt it was a soft pen. I don't think there was much in it. You see it week in, week out. And there's player shirt pulling all the time. And look, the only way you'll clamp down on that is if you start giving pens and players will stop doing it. But I did feel it was soft, I will be honest. But was I complaining? No. And Anthony Gordon dispatched it with aplomb. And you thought, right, 86 minutes. Now it's a chance to do what we've done at Everton. Just keep going in their half, try and get another goal, see it out. Spurs won't have a reply. But what did we do? I felt Eddie Howe got it wrong. I still felt we had enough to deal with that, because it's like saying Burn and Chow couldn't handle him. And then, he went in there. He was all right on the ball for a little bit, but like I said, it invited Spurs on, give them confidence, give them more territory to attack. And then what happens? We concede another goal. Corner came in. Like I said, Ramsdale couldn't do much about the first, but when it came to their second equaliser, he flapped at the cross, and then it came back out, and then you had three centre-backs in there. It went through Shaw, it went through Chow, went through Burn, and then Ramsdale didn't see it till late, and it squirmed under him, and that was the equaliser, and Spurs grabbed the point. But you know what? It wasn't even the best executed overhead bicycle kick, whatever you want to call it. It hit his shin. And it just it went into the goal, such slow motion. It was such a poor goal to concede. But you know what? Like I said, the pen was soft. I still don't think, you might disagree with us, but I don't think we deserve to win overall. So Spurs will feel with that soft pen, justice was done. And I felt they deserved the point. Yes, they only had 2 chances on target, but you know what? They were clinical with them both. So fair play to them. And I feel they defended well. They crowded Valdemar out a lot. Like I said with his video at ESPN, he played handball, used his upper body for his strength. I feel he needs to use that a bit more, get used to players crowding him out. He needs to get in the box a little bit more. But obviously, caveat that, the return of Johan Wissa will give us such a big lift, and I hope he's back on Saturday when Burnley visits St James's Park. So yeah, overall, we'll have dropped to 13th, but a couple of wins would take we're back up. Depending on other results to the Europa League places, we'll be knocking back on the door of the Champions League. So yeah, I'm not overly disappointed. I'm frustrated because leading so late on, but it's just, well, the table's so bunched like this, you feel if we can get a head of steam up, which we're normally doing anyhow, you can really start climbing that table. But soon it'll not be as bunched, it'll start spreading out, everyone will start taking their places, and that'll be harder to catch up. So I just feel like leading with 4 minutes to go, you should really be seeing that game out. We should be talking about 9 points from 9. But look, if we beat Burnley convincingly before Germany, then no one will be complaining. We could say and look back on that in retrospect, with hindsight, that it was a good point in the end. But we'll not know yet. We'll have to, though, follow it up against Burnley on Saturday and put them to the sword convincingly. And that'll be 10 from 12. And then we should be back in the top half of the table. All is not lost. Like I said, I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated. I can see the bigger picture. But anyway, that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked this video, please drop it a like. Like I said, turn on the notification bell when you subscribe. And I will be back when my next video will be my post-match reaction after we've played Burnley on Saturday. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you Saturday. Bye-bye.